The school hallway buzzed with the energy of students shuffling to their classes, backpacks slung over shoulders, their chatter filling the air. Principal Harris, a tall, confident woman in her late 40s, strode through the corridor, her gaze sharp and commanding. She prided herself on maintaining order and inclusivity at Jefferson High, a place she'd spent years molding into a sanctuary of education and equity. As she passed a group of teachers, murmurs caught her attention. Whispers traveled quickly in a school, and Harris wasn't one to ignore them. She turned toward the source of the hushed conversation and spotted the man causing the commotion. Standing near the main entrance, he didn't seem particularly out of place at first glance. He wore a black jacket, jeans, and a neutral expression. But atop his head was a glaring red cap with bold white lettering. "Make America Great Again." The sight stopped Harris in her tracks. She didn't recognize the man, which was unusual. Visitors rarely entered without her prior approval. The cap, however, struck a deeper chord. It wasn't just a political statement. In this context, it felt like a provocation. She approached him, her heels clicking sharply against the floor. "Excuse me," she said, her voice firm but professional. "Can I help you?" The man turned, offering a faint smile. "No, I'm good. Just looking around." "This is a school," she replied curtly. "You can't just look around. Are you a parent, a visitor? Did you check in at the front office?" He tilted his head slightly, his calm demeanor almost irritatingly unshaken. "No, I didn't. Just wanted to see the place." Harris glanced at the MAGA hat again, her unease growing. She knew the symbol had stirred strong emotions on both sides of the political spectrum, but in her school, her sanctuary, it felt misplaced, even inflammatory. "Sir, I'm going to have to ask you to leave. This is an educational environment and—" The man raised his hand, cutting her off, not rudely, but with an air of quiet authority. "I mean no harm," he said. "But if my hat is the problem, that's on you, not me." Her chest tightened. "It's not about the hat. It's about respecting the environment here. We don't encourage divisive symbols in a place meant to unify students." His smirk deepened. "Divisive? Interesting choice of words." Students had started to gather, their curious eyes watching the exchange unfold. Harris felt the weight of their stares. This was not the kind of scene she wanted in her hallways. "This is your last warning," she said, her voice dropping to a steely tone. "Take off the hat or leave. Now!" The man hesitated for a moment, then tipped the brim of his cap as if mocking her authority. "All right. I'll go." He turned and walked toward the exit, his steps leisurely, his posture unbothered. Harris stood rooted to the spot, watching him leave. The students began to disperse, but the tension lingered like a shadow. Back in her office, Harris couldn't shake the encounter. There was something familiar about the man, though she couldn't place it. Her phone buzzed, pulling her attention. "Principal Harris," her secretary said on the other end, her voice tinged with excitement. "I just got word. There's a meeting scheduled with the new owner of the school later today." Harris frowned. "New owner? What are you talking about?" "It's official," the secretary replied. "The school's been sold. The district didn't mention anything until now, but apparently the buyer is someone big." The pit in Harris's stomach deepened. "Who is it?" There was a pause, then the secretary's voice came through, almost hesitant. "It's Elon Musk." Harris's breath caught. Her mind reeled back to the man in the hallway. The hat. The smirk. The quiet confidence. It all clicked into place. She stared out her office window, her pulse quickening. "This can't be happening," she muttered under her breath. Later that evening, Principal Harris sat at her desk, staring at her laptop screen with a mixture of disbelief and confusion. The email from the school district confirmed it. Elon Musk was now the official owner of Jefferson High. There were no additional details, no explanations as to why he had purchased the school or what changes might follow. The announcement was oddly vague, leaving Harris with more questions than answers. Her mind raced back to the encounter earlier that day. The man in the hallway had been calm, too calm, when she confronted him. His smugness now made sense. He hadn't just been some visitor or random troublemaker. He had been there with purpose. Harris clenched her fists, the realization sending a jolt of frustration through her. Whatever Musk's intentions were, she wasn't going to let him disrupt everything she had worked so hard to build. The next morning, the school was abuzz with rumors. Students whispered about Elon Musk's name like it was a spell, their voices filled with excitement and curiosity. Harris walked through the hallways, her jaw tight as she overheard snippets of conversations. "Do you think he's gonna make us all wear spacesuits?" one student joked. "Maybe he'll give us Tesla rides to class," another quipped. The faculty, however, seemed more cautious. In the staff lounge, the air was thick with tension. Harris joined the group, her presence silencing the murmurs. She placed her hands on the table, her voice steady but firm. "We need to stay focused," she said, addressing the room. "Whatever changes are coming, it's our job to ensure the students remain our top priority. Elon Musk might own the school now, but that doesn't change our mission." A murmur of agreement rippled through the group, but Harris could see the unease in their faces. She felt it too, a gnawing sense of uncertainty that refused to let her go. Later that day, Harris noticed something peculiar. A team of contractors had arrived at the school, unloading crates of equipment labeled with high-tech branding. They moved quickly, installing new cameras in the hallways and classrooms. Harris approached one of the workers, her tone sharp. "What's all this?" she asked, gesturing to the cameras. "Orders from the new administration," the man replied without looking up. "We're upgrading the school surveillance system." Harris frowned. "And who approved this?" "Didn't need approval," he said, finally meeting her gaze. "This came straight from the top." Frustrated, Harris walked away, her mind churning. The upgrades weren't the only unusual changes. Over the next few days, mysterious shipments arrived, including advanced computer systems and experimental-looking gadgets. The students were curious, but Harris was wary. There had been no communication from Musk or his team about these changes, and the lack of transparency was unsettling. Then, the notes started appearing. The first one was left on her desk, written in bold, uneven letters. "Stay out of it." At first, Harris dismissed it as a prank, but the notes kept coming. One was slipped under her office door, another left in her mailbox. Each one carried the same cryptic warning. The messages were unnerving, but they only fueled her determination to uncover what was going on. Late one evening, long after the students and staff had gone home, Harris stayed in her office, combing through the school's recent financial records. She discovered a sudden influx of funding. Millions of dollars had been funneled into the school over the past month. The source was listed under a shell corporation with ties to Musk's various ventures. The discoveries didn't stop there. Harris found contracts for experimental programs, some of which involved collecting data on students' performance and behavior. The language in the documents was vague, but it hinted at something far more invasive than standard educational research. Her chest tightened as the pieces began to fall into place. Musk wasn't just upgrading the school, he was using it as a testing ground for his technologies. The implications were staggering. Harris couldn't shake the feeling that the students, her students, were being treated like guinea pigs. The next morning, Harris addressed her concerns in an email to the district, outlining everything she had discovered. But hours passed with no response. It was as though her concerns had vanished into a void. Determined to confront Musk directly, Harris called the number listed on one of the contracts. To her surprise, she was connected to someone immediately. Elon Musk's office. A crisp voice answered. "This is Principal Harris from Jefferson High," she said, her tone resolute. "I need to speak with him." There was a pause before the voice replied. "Mr. Musk is unavailable at the moment. I can pass along a message." Harris didn't back down. "Tell him we need to talk about what's happening at my school. Now!" The line went dead without another word. That evening, as Harris locked up her office, she couldn't shake the feeling of being watched. The new cameras blinked in the dim light, their presence intrusive and unnerving. She glanced over her shoulder, her instincts screaming that something wasn't right. As she left the building, her thoughts swirled with uncertainty. The warnings, the secrecy, the strange equipment, it was all too much to ignore. Harris resolved to get to the bottom of it, no matter what it took. She wasn't just protecting the school. She was protecting the future of every student who walked its halls. Over the next few days, Principal Harris grew increasingly wary of the changes happening around her. The school felt different, not just physically, with its shiny new equipment and surveillance upgrades, but emotionally. There was an undercurrent of tension that wasn't there before, as if the very walls had absorbed the unease. The students, meanwhile, seemed oblivious to the deeper implications. Many were excited about the technology being installed. New touchscreen boards appeared in classrooms, replacing old whiteboards. Advanced tablets were distributed to every student, preloaded with educational apps that promised to revolutionize learning. For some, it felt like a dream come true, a leap into the future. But Harris couldn't shake the nagging questions. Why Jefferson High? Why now? And why the secrecy? The lack of communication from Musk or his representatives was maddening. The more she tried to find answers, the more she encountered resistance. Her determination only grew stronger when she noticed strange patterns emerging among the students. Some of them, particularly the high achievers, began receiving notifications on their tablets directing them to specialized learning sessions. These sessions weren't on the regular schedule and took place in a newly renovated wing of the school. When Harris inquired about these sessions, the staff running them were tight-lipped, saying only that they were part of a pilot program designed to enhance cognitive development. The vagueness was a red flag. Harris decided to investigate further. One evening, long after the school day had ended, Harris ventured into the restricted wing. The hallways were eerily quiet, the only sound her footsteps echoing off the polished floors. She passed several locked doors, each labeled with cryptic names like Cognitive Optimization Lab and Behavioral Data Analysis Center. Finally, she found a door slightly ajar. Peeking inside, she saw rows of students seated in futuristic-looking chairs, their faces illuminated by soft blue light from the screens in front of them. The screens displayed rapidly changing images, patterns, symbols, and what looked like subliminal messages. Harris's breath caught. This wasn't education, it was experimentation. The students seemed entranced, their expressions blank as the screens flickered in front of them. She took a step back, her mind racing. What was Musk trying to achieve here? Before she could gather her thoughts, a voice startled her. "Principal Harris," said a man standing behind her. He was tall and dressed in a sleek suit, his demeanor professional but cold. "You're not authorized to be here." Harris turned to face him, her chin lifted in defiance. "What's going on in there?" she demanded. "Those are my students, and I have a right to know." The man's expression didn't waver. "This is a controlled environment designed to optimize learning outcomes. Everything has been approved at the highest levels." "By who?" Harris snapped. "Certainly not me, and I'm still the principal of this school." The man didn't answer. Instead, he stepped closer, his tone dropping to a warning. "I suggest you leave this area immediately. For your own good." Harris stared him down, but she knew she couldn't push further without risking her position, or worse. Reluctantly, she turned and walked away, her mind churning with what she had seen. Back in her office, she compiled everything she had learned: the strange shipments, the invasive technology, the secretive experiments. She needed to take action, but wasn't sure how. Going public could risk her career and potentially the school's reputation, but staying silent wasn't an option. That night, Harris received another anonymous note. This one was different. It read, "Meet me in the parking lot after 10 p.m. You're not alone in this." Despite her better judgment, Harris decided to go. She couldn't afford to ignore a potential ally. When she arrived at the parking lot, a figure emerged from the shadows. A teacher she recognized from the science department, Mr. Patel. "I've seen what's happening," Patel said, his voice low. "I've been tracking it for weeks. The experiments, the data collection, it's bigger than we think." Harris frowned. "What do you mean?" Patel handed her a folder filled with documents. "Musk's team is using the school as a test site for experimental neural technology. They're collecting data on how students learn, how they think, even how they behave. It's all tied to something they call the Cognitive Integration Initiative." Flipping through the papers, Harris felt a chill run down her spine. The documents detailed plans to expand the program, with Jefferson High as the prototype for a global rollout. The students weren't just participants, they were test subjects. "This is unethical," Harris said, her voice trembling with anger. "They're treating these kids like lab rats." Patel nodded. "I know. That's why I came to you. We need to expose this." Harris hesitated. If they went public, it could bring the full weight of Musk's legal and financial resources down on them. But the alternative, doing nothing, was unthinkable. "I need time to think," she said, clutching the folder. "But thank you. We can't let this go on." As Patel disappeared into the night, Harris returned to her office, her resolve hardening. She didn't know how she would fight back, but one thing was clear: she wasn't going to let her students become pawns in a billionaire's experiment. The next morning, Harris felt the weight of her decision pressing on her as she walked into the school. Patel's revelations haunted her, but so did the lingering question of how far Musk's reach extended. The knowledge that she was standing in the center of something far larger than herself was both terrifying and motivating. The day began like any other, but Harris's perception had shifted. Every interaction with staff, every piece of equipment in the school now seemed suspicious. The tension was palpable, even among the faculty. She noticed whispered conversations between staff members, who quickly fell silent as she approached. It wasn't paranoia. Something was brewing. During her lunch break, Harris locked her office door and began poring over the documents Patel had given her. The sheer scale of the project outlined in the files was staggering. Musk's initiative wasn't limited to Jefferson High. It was a blueprint for educational reform on a global scale, with plans to implement his technology in schools worldwide. The documents spoke of neural optimization, data-driven behavior modification, and creating a generation of unparalleled cognitive performance. At first glance, it sounded revolutionary. But as Harris read on, the darker implications became clear. The initiative wasn't just about improving education, it was about control. The data being collected wasn't just academic, it was deeply personal, tracking everything from emotional responses to decision-making patterns. Musk's technology was designed to predict and influence behavior, shaping students into what his algorithms deemed ideal citizens. Harris felt sick. The ethical violations were staggering. Parents hadn't consented to this, and the students certainly hadn't. It was a gross abuse of power, and it was happening right under her nose. She was pulled from her thoughts by a knock at her door. Startled, she quickly stashed the documents in her desk before opening it. It was Miss Carter, the school counselor, looking concerned. "Principal Harris, do you have a moment?" she asked. Harris nodded, stepping aside to let her in. "What's on your mind?" "It's the students," Carter said, lowering her voice. "I've noticed some strange behavior lately, especially among the kids in the advanced learning program. They're distracted, almost detached. I've had several of them come to me saying they're struggling to focus, feeling unusually tired, or even experiencing nightmares. It's not normal." Harris's chest tightened. The experiments were already taking a toll on the students. She took a deep breath, trying to steady her voice. "Thank you for bringing this to my attention. Keep monitoring them, and let me know if anything changes." Carter hesitated, as if she wanted to say more, but eventually nodded and left. Harris closed the door and leaned against it, her mind racing. The evidence was piling up, but so were the stakes. That evening, Harris received an unexpected call. The voice on the other end was calm and measured, but the underlying message sent a chill down her spine. "Principal Harris, this is a courtesy reminder to stay focused on your administrative duties," the caller said. "You've been asking questions that don't concern you. For your sake, I'd advise you to let this matter go." Before she could respond, the line went dead. The threat only strengthened her resolve. She wasn't going to back down, not when her students' well-being was on the line. She reached out to Patel, arranging a secret meeting to discuss their next steps. When they met later that night, Patel was visibly nervous. "They're watching us," he said. "The cameras, the tablets, they're not just collecting data on the students. They're monitoring everyone." Harris wasn't surprised, but hearing it confirmed made her stomach drop. "We need to act quickly," she said. "We need to get this information to the parents and the media before it's too late." Patel hesitated. "Are you sure about this? Musk's resources are limitless. If we go public, he'll come after us with everything he has." Harris met his gaze, her voice firm. "We can't let fear stop us. The students are counting on us to protect them. This isn't just about our school, it's about the future of education. If we don't take a stand, who will?" Patel nodded, his resolve hardening. "All right, let's do this." They spent the next several hours devising a plan. Harris would call an emergency parent-teacher meeting, framing it as a routine update on recent changes to the school. Meanwhile, Patel would prepare a presentation exposing the truth about Musk's experiments, complete with the documents he had collected. Their goal was to rally the parents and faculty, hoping that a united front would be strong enough to withstand whatever retaliation Musk might unleash. As Harris prepared for the meeting, she couldn't shake the feeling that they were walking into a storm. She knew the risks. They could lose their jobs, their reputations, everything. But the stakes were too high to ignore. This wasn't just about one school. It was about standing up to unchecked power and protecting the integrity of education. When the night of the meeting arrived, the auditorium was packed. Parents, teachers, and even some students filled the seats, their faces a mix of curiosity and concern. Harris took a deep breath, stepping up to the podium. "Thank you all for coming on such short notice," she began, her voice steady despite the storm of emotion swirling inside her. "I'm here tonight because I believe you deserve the truth about what's been happening at Jefferson High." As she spoke, outlining the changes she had observed and the information Patel had uncovered, the room grew tense. Gasps and murmurs rippled through the crowd as she revealed the scope of Musk's plans. "We have a choice to make," Harris said, her voice firm. "We can stay silent and allow our children to be used as test subjects, or we can stand together and fight for their right to an education that respects their dignity and humanity." The room erupted into a mix of outrage and determination. Parents stood up, demanding answers. Teachers pledged their support. For the first time in weeks, Harris felt a glimmer of hope. But as she looked out at the crowd, she knew this was only the beginning. The fight ahead would be long and difficult, but she was ready. She had no choice. This was her school, her students, and she wasn't going to let them down. Section 5. Heroism in the Shadows, 1,000 Words. Maria moves quietly through the school's darkened hallways, her footsteps muffled against the cold, hard floor. It's late, far past the final bell, but the tension in Lincoln Academy hasn't waned. She stops by a small group, students from various grades, faces shadowed in fear and hope. These are the ones who've dared to resist, the ones who've noticed the subtle changes in their daily lives, the ones who've begun to piece together the truth. "Are you sure about this?" a student named Aisha whispers, glancing nervously over her shoulder. "I mean, we're up against something big. They'll be watching us. Everything we do could be traced." Maria nods, steadying her voice, though the weight of the danger pressing on her chest is palpable. "Yes, we are sure. We've traced it back to their network. The tech they're using to control us is centralized, one server running everything. If we can shut that down, we can break free. But it won't be easy. They built traps, encryption designed to catch anyone who tries." Musk leans against a nearby wall, arms crossed, listening intently. His usual smug demeanor is gone, replaced with a stark seriousness. His eyes, though still sharp, carry a flicker of genuine concern. "Even you can't crack it," Aisha says, skepticism lacing her voice. "You're just another rich guy playing at savior." Musk steps forward, his expression hardening. "You think I bought this school to make headlines? I came here to fix something I should have stopped a long time ago. I've seen what happens when power gets unchecked, when people forget they're being controlled. I'm not doing this for the cameras. I'm doing this because it's the right thing. Even if you don't believe me now, you'll see." The students exchange uncertain glances, but something in Musk's tone, his absolute conviction, reaches them. Slowly, their doubt begins to fade. Maria scans the group, a mix of students and teachers who have joined their cause. There's Jason, the quiet tech prodigy, whose skills have helped pinpoint weak spots in the network. Lila, the cheerleader, who's been helping spread the word discreetly across different groups of students. And Sophie, Maria's own daughter, whose bravery surprises her mother every day. "They're watching everything," Jason whispers, his fingers scrolling through his tablet, showing them the constant surveillance feeds. "They've planted cameras in the walls, tracking our movements. I've found ways to mask our actions, but it won't be enough unless we hit them where it hurts." Maria exhales slowly, weighing every possibility. She thinks of her own responsibilities, the students who have come to trust her. This isn't just a mission, it's a test of everything she believes in. "We strike at the heart of it," she says. "The server that controls it all. It's guarded, heavily encrypted, but with your skills, Jason, and the intel we have, we can break through." Musk steps forward, leaning in. "I've got resources. I've got people. I'll make sure we've got what we need, technological backup, support from my networks. I'm not here to sit on the sidelines. I'll be in this with you." Maria looks at him, unsure if she should trust him, unsure if he's simply playing another game. But she can't afford to be blinded by her doubts. The truth is, she needs his resources, his influence. And more importantly, she needs him to see the cost of what they're doing. "We'll hit the server tomorrow night," Maria says firmly. "We'll break into their system, take down the control feeds, and disrupt the program for good. If we don't act now, it'll be too late." There's silence, a shared understanding forming among them, one that will come with risks too great to ignore. But as they prepare, the weight of responsibility presses heavier on Maria. The school isn't just a building, it's home to so many who've trusted her guidance. Every moment she spends in the shadows feels like a gamble, a choice she's made that could either save them or cost them everything. And as they move forward into the unknown, Maria knows one thing for certain. Real heroism isn't about masks or grand gestures. It's about facing the darkness, even when it means walking alone. It's about trusting others, flawed, uncertain, but willing to fight for what's right. This isn't just about taking down the government's control. It's about reclaiming their freedom, their voices, and proving that resistance, even in the shadows, can spark change. Section 6. Accountability and Redemption, 1,000 words. The operation to shut down the mind control tech is a success. The network is down. The servers have been dismantled, and the surveillance feeds have gone dark. But the battle isn't over. Word of the incident reaches the higher-ups, government operatives, mercenaries, and shadowy figures who've long used Lincoln Academy as a tool to manipulate society. The stakes have shifted, and now both Maria and Musk are forced to confront what they've done, and the weight of accountability that follows. Maria stands alone in her office, the aftermath of the mission washing over her. Her mind is flooded with memories, students whispering in secret, the fearful glances exchanged between parents, and the moment when she had to trust Musk with everything. Every choice she made has had consequences. She looks at a surveillance feed that once monitored every corner of the school, but now shows nothing: empty classrooms, silent corridors. For the first time, she feels the responsibility not just as a leader, but as someone who made decisions with real impact. And then Musk walks in. His demeanor has changed. He's no longer the confident tech mogul. There's something raw about him now, something that carries more weight. His eyes meet Maria's, and they exchange a heavy, wordless understanding. "I didn't just buy this school to take down the network," Musk says quietly. "I thought I could clean up a mess and walk away with no one getting hurt. But this was bigger than I thought. I made mistakes. I let my ego push me forward without seeing the full picture." Maria looks at him, her voice steady but firm. "You don't get to walk away from this, Musk. You thought you could use your power to fix things, to play the savior. But real power doesn't come from money or influence. It comes from responsibility. And you've been blind to that." Musk's jaw clenches. "I've always been focused on building, on making things better. But I see now, I've been using people as tools, pushing for my own vision without considering the consequences." He sighs, the weight of his words clear. "You're right. I let myself believe I could control things, and now look at what we've done." Maria sits back, reflecting on her own choices. She's spent years building this school, fighting for every student, every faculty member. She's devoted her life to guiding others, but even she made decisions that have led to harm. The network they dismantled was part of a government project meant to exert control, yes, but it was also fueled by years of complacency from leaders who looked the other way. "We were both wrong," Maria says. "We acted, but we didn't think far enough ahead. We saw the tech, the surveillance, and thought we could destroy it. But that wasn't the root of the problem. It's the system itself, the way power has been abused. We've disrupted something, yes, but what happens next? That's what matters now." Musk runs a hand through his hair, frustration and guilt etched into his features. "You're right. The tech was just one part of this. It was never about the machines, it was about control. We've exposed something dangerous, but we've also uncovered something deeper. A system designed to keep people weak, dependent, and manipulated. If we stop here, it'll just start again." Maria leans forward. "We have to be accountable, Musk. This wasn't a fight we could win alone. It's going to take more than just dismantling tech. It's about building something new. A system where schools like this can thrive, without fear, without manipulation. Where education truly empowers kids to think for themselves." Musk looks at her with newfound clarity. You're asking for change on a scale no one's ever tried before. Not just reform, but a complete shift in how we see leadership, responsibility, and accountability. It won't be easy, but you're right, we have to rebuild from the ground up. Maria, with her unwavering commitment to education, begins to envision what could come next. A framework where schools aren't just places of learning but centers for community, where students are nurtured as individuals with potential, not just as tools for political gain. She realizes she can't do it alone, not without Musk's resources, his platform, and his drive. I can't lead this alone, Maria admits, though her pride aches at the vulnerability in her voice. I need your help, Musk. Not just your money or your name. I need your vision, your voice. Together, we can reshape what education means, create a new model that builds leaders, not followers. Musk stands tall, his gaze steady. I'm in. I didn't come here just to buy a school. I came here because something inside me told me I could do more. I thought I could save it on my own, fix it without consequences. But now, I see what's at stake. This isn't about power or ego anymore. It's about making things right. They both understand that this isn't the end. This is only the beginning of something larger, something that will ripple far beyond Lincoln Academy. Accountability means seeing the bigger picture, recognizing that real change isn't about reacting, but about building something stronger. Together, Maria says, we can lead this change. We can create something lasting, something that holds people accountable, that empowers students and teachers alike to believe in real freedom. No more manipulation. No more fear. Musk nods, his voice soft but resolute. And it starts now. Not with the tech, but with us, leading by example, taking responsibility. We'll rebuild, but we'll do it right this time. As they exchange a shared look, something in both of them shifts. The tension that once divided them, the mistrust, the doubt, fades, replaced by a new understanding. They aren't alone anymore. Together, they'll hold themselves accountable. Together, they'll build something that changes everything. And in that moment, they realize that true redemption comes not from power or prestige, but from the willingness to face the past, to acknowledge mistakes, and to commit to a future where every decision counts. Section 7. Legacy and Transformation, 1,000 words. The final pieces of their plan have been set into motion. Lincoln Academy has survived the storm. The mind control network is gone, and the school is no longer under the control of the hidden forces. But as Maria walks the hallways once more, she sees something different now. This school isn't the same place it was before. It has changed, its foundation rebuilt, its students and staff no longer mere pawns in a game of power. The moment they dismantled the network was just the beginning. What followed was something unexpected. The fight didn't end with the technology, it ended with a new vision, one that permeates every classroom, every lesson, and every conversation between students. Lincoln Academy has become something far greater than they imagined, a place where education is free, where students are taught to think critically, speak freely, and pursue knowledge without fear of consequence. Maria looks out across the courtyard where groups of students gather, some working together on projects, others leading discussions in front of their peers. The atmosphere here is alive, vibrant, full of curiosity, creativity, and above all, equality. The teachers no longer follow rigid rules set by distant authorities, but instead, they engage, listen, and teach with genuine purpose. But it wasn't just the physical transformation that struck Maria, it was the cultural shift. Students no longer fear standing out or speaking their minds. Diversity is embraced here, not just tolerated. There's a unity among them, a bond formed in resistance, yes, but also in the shared understanding of what freedom truly means. She watches Sophie, her daughter, standing at the edge of the courtyard, deep in discussion with a group of fellow students. Her once shy and fearful girl has blossomed into someone full of confidence and conviction. Sophie's eyes sparkle with purpose, and she's leading others now, encouraging them to speak up, to push the boundaries of their learning. Maria smiles at the sight, a wave of pride washing over her. But she also knows it's more than just pride, it's realization. The fight they started here didn't end with just removing tech or dismantling a corrupt system. It ended with a fundamental change in the students themselves. They've been taught to think independently, to question authority when it's unjust, and to hold each other accountable. The lessons she once believed were simple now carry a deeper meaning. Freedom isn't just a word, it's something that must be actively protected. It requires vigilance, strength, and most importantly, the will to fight for it every single day. Musk steps beside her, having quietly watched the same scene unfold. His demeanor is different now, calmer, more reflective. Gone is the impatient billionaire. In his place is someone who's found purpose beyond the headlines, beyond the tech world. Musk's eyes scan the courtyard, his gaze softening. "This," he says, almost to himself, "this is what it's all about. Not power or influence. Not wealth or status. It's about giving these kids a chance to truly thrive, to believe in something bigger than themselves." Maria turns to him, and for the first time, she sees the man behind the mask, the one who once sought to dominate and control. The man she used to view with suspicion is now someone she sees as an ally, someone who has changed because he chose to take responsibility. "We did this together," she says quietly. "But this isn't just our legacy. It's theirs now." Musk nods slowly, a thoughtful expression on his face. "You're right. This school, this community, it isn't about us anymore. It belongs to them. They're the ones who'll carry it forward, shape it into something we never even imagined." The weight of that realization hangs in the air between them. The school is no longer just a place of learning. It's a movement, a seed that has been planted here, one that has already begun to grow roots in other schools, other communities. Students from Lincoln Academy are spreading what they've learned, sharing the knowledge, advocating for change. And it's all built on the foundation of unity, accountability, and empowerment. Maria thinks back to the beginning, the day Elon Musk walked into this school wearing that MAGA hat, defying everything she stood for. It had been a disruption then, an act that could have easily gone in a very different direction. But now, she sees it for what it really was, an unexpected catalyst. Musk's actions, his very presence, forced them all to confront the flaws in the system, to question the authority they'd long accepted without challenge. And in that confrontation, something beautiful emerged, something far greater than they anticipated. It wasn't just about tearing down old structures. It was about rebuilding a system that valued every student, every teacher, every person, regardless of background, race, gender, or belief. Maria feels a hand on her shoulder. It's Musk's, a gesture not of command or dominance, but of partnership. "We made mistakes," he admits. "But we didn't let those mistakes define us. We chose to act. And now, this," he gestures around them. "This is the real legacy. This, what we've started, is something that can't be undone. It's growing, spreading." Maria smiles softly, gratitude and relief washing over her. "It's bigger than one person. Bigger than us. It's a movement. A way forward that can't be stopped." They both understand that their job now isn't to lead from the front, but to guide from behind. Their work is done, the foundation laid. It's up to the students and teachers to continue this. Their legacy will be what happens next, the choices made by those who've learned to think for themselves, to question authority when it's wrong, and to fight for what's right. As they walk together through the school, they see the evidence of change everywhere, walls adorned with artwork, posters advocating for social justice, and students exchanging ideas with excitement, free from fear. Maria knows she has done her part, and now it's time to let go, to let this school live on as a symbol of what happens when people come together, driven by hope, by the belief that a better future is possible. This is their legacy, a legacy of transformation, of resilience, of real freedom. And it will endure long after they're gone.